The Pope, the spiritual leader of more than 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, is not only a religious figure but also a global moral icon whose influence extends far beyond the borders of the Vatican. A tragic event like an assassination of the Pope would send shockwaves across the globe, impacting multiple aspects of religious, political, and social life. This article analyzes the potential consequences and upheavals of such an event, based on the understanding of the Pope's role in the modern world and historical precedents. The most immediate and profound impact would be the widespread shock and grief within the global Catholic community. News would quickly spread, causing churches around the world to be filled with people praying. From grand cathedrals in Rome to small chapels in rural villages in the Philippines or Brazil, millions of believers would gather in mourning and confusion. St. Peter's Square in the Vatican would become the focal point of global attention, with thousands gathering to pray and commemorate. Immediately, the Vatican would face a dual emergency, managing the immediate crisis and preparing for a transition of power. The Camerlengo Chamberlain would officially confirm the Pope's death and seal his office and private apartment. The Holy See would enter a period known as sede vacant see, a special time when the Church has no leader. In terms of security, such an event would trigger one of the largest international investigations. The Swiss Guard, Vatican police, along with Italian police and international intelligence agencies, would participate in the investigation. The Vatican and Rome areas would undergo unprecedented security measures, affecting tourism and daily life in the region. Politically and religiously, an important consequence would be the process of electing a new pope. Within 15 to 20 days following the Pope's death, the conclave would be convened. About 120 cardinals under the age of 80 from around the world would gather in the Sistine Chapel to elect a successor. In the context of an assassination, this conclave would occur under unprecedented pressure and attention. The motive and identity of the assassin would deeply affect subsequent upheavals. If the act were related to an extremist religious organization, it could incite interreligious tensions globally. If politically motivated, it might impact diplomatic relations between the Vatican and the involved countries. In any case, the risk of retaliatory violence or extremist actions against perceived related groups would heighten, requiring significant efforts from religious and political leaders to call for calm. Geopolitically, the influence would extend beyond the religious scope. The Pope is not only a spiritual leader, but also the head of state of the Vatican City, an entity with diplomatic relations with most countries worldwide. The Vatican plays a vital role in conflict resolution, humanitarian aid, and various international issues. A sudden leadership disruption could affect ongoing peace efforts, especially in regions where the Catholic Church holds significant influence. The impact on international diplomatic relations will largely depend on the predecessor and successor Pope's stance. If there are substantial changes in views on important international issues, from conflicts in the Middle East to those in Africa or Latin America, countries may need to adjust their diplomatic strategies towards the Vatican. In the modern media context, such an event would unleash an unprecedented wave of information and misinformation. Social networks would be flooded with conspiracy theories, fueling confusion and potentially escalating tensions. The Vatican and Catholic organizations would face substantial challenges in communicating accurate information and managing media crises. History shows that assassinations of religious leaders can lead to profound changes within religious organizations. The Catholic Church, with its 2,000-year history and clear hierarchical structure, is more resilient than many other organizations but will still undergo significant impacts. In modern history, while there have been plots and threats, such as the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II in 1981, the Church has not faced a situation where a sitting pope was successfully assassinated. The sudden and tragic passing of the Pope could also create opportunities for significant changes within the Church. Depending on the successor chosen, delayed reforms might be expedited, or conversely, the Church could shift to a more conservative stance. History shows that crises within the Church often lead to significant changes in doctrine, practice, or organizational structure. For countries with large Catholic populations like the Philippines, Brazil, Mexico, and many African nations, the impact will be especially deep. Political leaders in these countries will need to carefully consider their responses, being well aware that the issue could affect social and political stability domestically. In the long term, such a tragic event could lead to fundamental changes in how the Vatican operates. Security measures would be significantly intensified, potentially reducing the Pope's accessibility, a trait that many modern popes, particularly Pope Francis, have valued. Greater distance between the Pope and followers could impact perceptions of closeness and accessibility of the Catholic leadership. From a historical perspective, assassinations of political and religious leaders are often remembered as turning points marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. The death of a pope in such tragic circumstances would undoubtedly become a significant milestone in the history of the Catholic Church and could shape how the Church responds to the challenges of the 21st century. In conclusion, a tragic event like the assassination of the Pope would cause widespread global upheaval, from the grief of over 1 billion followers to complex political religious dynamics. While the Catholic Church, with its firmly established structure and traditions over centuries, is capable of weathering such a crisis, its impacts will nonetheless be felt for many years, perhaps decades afterward, reshaping not only the Church but also the role of religion in the modern world. It is not only a tragedy for Catholicism but also a shock for the entire international community, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the necessity for dialogue and respect that transcend religious and cultural boundaries.